Karen really thought of herself as a drummer.
Is that right?
Which is amazing to me. Didn't she know how well she sang?
She did, but I'd heard stories through the years that Bing Crosby always thought of himself as a golfer who sang. And Karen, for as much as she loved to sing, and it was inborn, obviously.
The dazzling aura, the angelic voice, but behind the stage lights lies a cruel truth that few know. Karen Carpenter's life was not just a story of dazzling success but also a tragedy of loneliness and invisible pressures that slowly destroyed her. For years, rumors of tense family relationships, strict control, and shocking secrets have swirled around. And now Richard Carpenter, her brother and lifelong companion, has finally broken his silence, confirming what really happened behind the scenes. But the little colos because it brought out the greatness in Karen and my arranging abilities and everyone who was involved in making it. Karen Carpenter was born on March 2, 1950 in New Haven, Connecticut. Her brother Richard was born 4 years earlier on October 15, 1946. Their parents, Agnes Ruhr and Harold Bertram Carpenter, were not only indifferent to each other but also showed little concern for their children. Agnes was blatantly biased toward Richard, making Karen feel like nothing more than a shadow in the family. Unlike his wife, their father had a deep passion for music. He owned a vast record collection spanning rock, pop, soul, jazz, and classical music, a musical treasure that profoundly influenced both siblings. Beyond that, he encouraged them to learn music from an early age. Richard displayed remarkable talent early on, starting with the accordion before mastering the piano with ease. Meanwhile, Karen showed little interest in performing and preferred simply listening to music. It was not until her teenage years that Karen gradually discovered her passion for singing and exploring musical instruments. Though they had their fair share of sibling quarrels, the two remained close. Karen was energetic, loved playing baseball with the neighborhood kids, and was often picked for teams before Richard, something that occasionally annoyed him. Agnes's favoritism became more obvious. She always defended Richard whenever he was upset while constantly scolding Karen as if every mistake was her fault. By the time Richard turned 16, his piano skills had reached an impressive level. Believing their son could succeed in a professional music career, the family decided to move to Southern California in 1963, where the music industry was booming. Though she did not want to leave her friends, Karen had no say in her parents' decision. They placed all their hopes on Richard's career. In their new home, Richard began performing in clubs, sometimes even hiding his real age as he was still underage. Meanwhile, Karen, wanting to avoid gym class, joined the school band, an accidental choice that ignited her passion for the drums. In 1965, Richard formed the Richard Carpenter Trio with Karen on drums and their school friend Wes Jacobs on bass. Although frequent heated arguments occurred, Richard refused to include Karen's name in the band's title. Even so, the trio quickly gained recognition in the local music scene with their captivating performances covering popular songs and playing Richard's original compositions. Their first big break came in 1966 when they won a major music competition in California and signed a contract with RCA Records. Still, the timing was not in their favor. Their soft jazz style could not compete with the electrifying rock waves sweeping the nation. Before long, RCA canceled the contract, leading to the group's disbandment. In spite of the setback, Richard refused to give up. He formed a new group called Spectrum, focusing on vocal harmonies. Even then, luck was not on their side, and Spectrum soon faded into obscurity. Nonetheless, during this time Richard made an important discovery. Karen was not just a skilled drummer, she had an enchanting crystal-clear voice. Believing this was the key to success, Richard persuaded Karen to take on the lead singer role. At the time, 17-year-old Karen weighed 143 pounds, a number slightly above the beauty standards of the era. After dieting and losing around 11 pounds, she received numerous compliments, sparking an obsession with weight control. In early 1969, their long-awaited opportunity finally arrived. A friend sent a demo tape of the siblings to a record label. Soon after, Herb Alpert, the renowned trumpeter and co-founder of A&M Records, was captivated by Karen's voice. He immediately offered them a contract. Since Karen was not yet 21, her parents had to sign on her behalf. On October 9, 1969, the Carpenters officially debuted with their first album Offering, in which Richard handled most of the lead vocals. Nevertheless, the album failed to make an impact, causing A&M executives to doubt the duo's potential. Faced with pressure to drop them, Herb Alpert remained steadfast in his support, and it was this perseverance that paved the way for the rise of one of the most iconic musical groups in history. From their first hits to the peak of fame, not only a talented producer, Herb Alpert was also the one who laid the foundation for the Carpenters' phenomenal success. He was married to singer Lonnie Hall, known for her sweet duets like Corazon and Katanas with Camilo Sesto. However, perhaps Alpert's greatest legacy was introducing the Carpenters to the song that would change their lives, They Long to Be Close to You. Prior to that, the song had been recorded by big names like Richard Chamberlain, Dionne Warwick, Dusty Springfield, and even Herb Alpert himself. Strangely, none of them achieved significant success with it. Alpert believed that Karen and Richard could make a difference, and he was right. Although initially hesitant, the siblings decided to give it a try. On May 14, 1970, Close to You was officially released and immediately became a nationwide sensation. Within 6 months, the song sold 3 million copies, and on July 25, 1970, it reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, marking the first hit of their career. Success followed success. In late 1970, while watching a wedding commercial on TV, Richard heard a short melody that sparked a new idea. From that fleeting tune, he composed We've Only Just Begun, a song about romantic new beginnings. Just 3 months after the triumph of Close to You, the new song was released on August 21, 1970, and once again made waves. We've Only Just Begun quickly climbed to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100, second only to Simon and Garfunkel's masterpiece Bridge Over Troubled Water. The song not only sold another million copies but also earned them 2 prestigious Grammy Awards in 1971. In just 1 year, the Carpenters had transformed from unknown artists into a global phenomenon with rising fame and fortune. Both hits were included in their second album Close to You, released in late August 1970. The album became an instant sensation, cementing the Carpenters' status as A-list stars. Not stopping there, on January 15, 1971, Karen released For All We Know, and once again the song touched the hearts of millions, reaching #3 on the Billboard Hot 100. As their career skyrocketed, the Carpenters continued to dominate the charts with more hit singles. On April 23, 1971, they released Rainy Days and Mondays, which soared to #2. Shortly after, the emotionally charged ballad Superstar also reached #2, solidifying their place in the hearts of fans. Both songs were featured on their third album The Carpenters, released on May 14, 1971, the first album to showcase the band's iconic logo, which would later become an unmistakable symbol of the Carpenters. Although Karen was the soul of the group with her crystal-clear mesmerizing voice, she still chose to sit behind the drums during performances while Richard and other musicians stood at the front. However, this performance style faced criticism in early 1971. Under pressure from fans and the media, Richard finally agreed to let Karen step into the spotlight where she rightfully belonged. From that moment on, Karen became an irreplaceable star and her brilliance gradually overshadowed Richard's role. Their career reached new heights on June 19, 1972, when the Carpenters released Goodbye to Love, a song that was not only a commercial success but also a musical revolution. The highlight of the song was Richard's innovative fuzz guitar solo, a bold and rare technique at the time. This groundbreaking performance earned Goodbye to Love recognition as the first power ballad, paving the way for future ballad styles. The song was part of their fourth album A Song for You, released in June 1972. The album continued to produce major hits including Hurting Each Other, which reached #2, It's Going to Take Some Time, which climbed to #12, and most notably Top of the World, which returned the Carpenters to the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Their fame even reached the political sphere. On August 1, 1972, the Carpenters were honored to perform at the White House at the invitation of President Richard Nixon, a milestone moment in their career. On stage, they embodied the perfect image of the American dream, but behind the dazzling lights, the Carpenters' lives were far from simple or as flawless as the love songs they shared with the world. Tragedy loomed behind the curtain. To cope with his chronic insomnia, Richard Carpenter began using methaqualone, a legally available sedative in the U.S. at the time. However, addiction took hold faster than he anticipated, dragging Richard into a relentless downward spiral. This drug would later be referenced in the film The Wolf of Wall Street as a stark warning about its devastating consequences. While Richard struggled with his addiction, Karen Carpenter became obsessed with her weight. It all started with an article criticizing her for appearing slightly overweight, accompanied by a photo that harshly highlighted her flaws. Those words cut deeply into Karen's psyche, pushing her into an extreme and dangerous cycle of weight control. Despite his addiction, Richard never stopped working. He poured his heart and soul into music, believing that by focusing on Karen's talent they could overcome any hardship. His dedication paid off. On May 1, 1973, the album Now and Then was released, further solidifying the Carpenters' dominance on the charts. But as their career soared, Karen's health began to decline. By 1974, she had lost a significant amount of weight, dropping to just 99 pounds, about 45 kilograms. She secretly hid food, abused laxatives, and became increasingly consumed by her obsession. Once a vibrant and lively young woman, Karen grew alarmingly thin and fragile. While she encouraged her brother to seek rehabilitation, Karen denied her own problems. She insisted that her weight loss was merely the result of stress. In truth, the situation was far more dire. Karen was suffering from anorexia nervosa, a dangerous and little understood eating disorder at the time. To conceal her emaciated frame, she wore layers of clothing in public appearances. Audiences saw a radiant Karen on stage, but few realized her health was deteriorating behind the scenes. Although her worsening condition persisted, the Carpenters pressed on. On June 6, 1975, they released their sixth album Horizon. Meanwhile, rumors began to circulate. Karen's gaunt appearance led many to believe she was battling cancer. In her desperate attempt to maintain a slim figure, Karen began using ipecac syrup, a drug that induces vomiting, further wreaking havoc on her already fragile body. Still, her family remained unaware of the true extent of her suffering. By 1975, the Carpenters' career began to wane. Their seventh album A Kind of Hush, released on June 11, 1976, failed to meet expectations. Even so, they had already left an indelible mark on the music world with over 150 million records sold globally. Karen Carpenter's voice, sweet, haunting, and profoundly moving, was celebrated as one of the greatest female voices of all time, leaving a lasting legacy in the music industry. But fame could not fill the void in Karen's heart. Though she dated several prominent figures, she never found true love. Then in the early 1980s, Karen met Thomas James Burrows, a real estate developer 9 years her senior. They met at an upscale restaurant where Burrows captivated Karen with his charm and confidence. Still, beneath his polished exterior lay a painful truth. Burrows was drowning in debt and searching for a way out. Emotionally vulnerable, Karen fell quickly into the relationship after a brief courtship. Burrows proposed, and they planned to marry on August 31, 1980, at the Crystal Room of the Beverly Hills Hotel. At 30 years old, Karen believed she had finally found the loving home and children she had always dreamed of. But just days before the wedding, her hopes were shattered. Burrows coldly confessed that he had undergone a vasectomy and could not have children. Devastated, Karen wanted to call off the wedding, but her mother adamantly refused, arguing that it was too late to cancel with invitations sent and family arrangements made. Desperate for her mother's approval, Karen went through with the marriage, a decision that would cost her dearly. After the wedding, Burrows revealed his true colors. He squandered Karen's money lavishly, spending thousands on extravagant luxuries. Worse still, he subjected her to physical and emotional abuse, turning her life into a nightmare. Within a year, unable to endure any more, Karen filed for divorce, but the emotional scars ran deep. Despite her failing health, Karen continued her relentless pursuit of thinness. She escalated her use of laxatives, taking up to 90 pills a night, and also abused thyroid medication to accelerate her metabolism. The harder she tried to control her body, the more it spiraled out of her grasp. By 1981, Karen's condition could no longer be hidden. Realizing she needed help, she sought professional treatment. Defying her family's objections, she traveled to New York to consult with Stephen Levinron, a leading specialist in eating disorders. For a while, it seemed like things were improving, but just as hope began to surface, tragedy quietly crept closer. The angel with a broken heart and Richard's confirmation, the final months of Karen Carpenter's life were a heartbreaking struggle between fragile hope and harsh reality. After years of battling anorexia nervosa, she sought help from psychologist Stephen Levinron. Recognizing the increasing danger of Karen's condition, Levinron arranged a family therapy session with her brother Richard and their mother Agnes. During the session, he emphasized that what Karen needed most was not just medical treatment but also love and support from her family. Richard, deeply caring for his sister, tried to express his concern, but what hurt Karen the most was the coldness from her mother, the person she had always longed to be recognized and loved by. Agnes's silence was like a knife piercing Karen's already fragile heart. In September 1982, as her health reached a critical point, Karen was hospitalized at Lenox Hill in New York. There, doctors decided to initiate intravenous nutrition therapy to help her gain weight quickly. But this life-saving measure came at a devastating cost. After years of physical depletion due to erratic eating habits, Karen's body could no longer withstand the strain of rapid weight gain. Her weakened heart became a ticking time bomb, ready to fail at any moment. In spite of the physical and emotional pain, Karen continued to pursue her career. On December 17, 1982, she gave her final performance at the multipurpose room of Buckley School in Sherman Oaks, California. No one present that day knew they were witnessing the fading brilliance of one of the greatest voices of all time. The final tragedy struck on the morning of February 4, 1983. Entering her room, Agnes was shocked to find Karen collapsed and unconscious on the floor. Although she was rushed to the hospital, all efforts to save her were in vain. Her heart had stopped beating. She was only 32 years old. 6 years later, in 1989, CBS produced a biographical film about Karen Carpenter's life. Nevertheless, the film only revealed part of the truth. Richard and Agnes insisted on removing details that highlighted Karen's pain in seeking her mother's love and the family's internal conflicts. They wanted to preserve the image of a radiant Karen on stage rather than exposing the heartbreaking reality behind the spotlight. Though initially hesitant to confront the pain of his loss, Richard Carpenter became the guardian of his sister's legacy. For years, he devoted himself to restoring, re-releasing, and remastering the Carpenters' recordings, allowing new generations of fans to experience the emotional depth and musical brilliance of their work. Under Richard's loving care, their music not only endured but also shone anew, transcending the boundaries of time. Beyond preserving their music, Richard also began sharing little-known behind-the-scenes stories. In a recent interview, he admitted that there was so much about Karen that the public never knew. She was not just an angelic voice, she was a passionate person who carried an enormous amount of pain from the quiet moments of daily life to the pressures of performing under the spotlight. Richard offered a candid and profound glimpse into the special bond between the siblings, both as talented musical collaborators and as emotional anchors for one another. Perhaps the most shocking revelation came when Richard finally confirmed a long-standing rumor. Karen endured immense pressure from their family, from the music industry, and from herself. He saw her gradually change, but none of them understood how serious the problem was. By the time they realized it, it may have been too late. One of the most poignant milestones in Richard's effort to honor Karen's legacy was the release of her solo album in 1996. This project, which Karen had completed in 1979, was never released during her lifetime. The album was a bittersweet glimpse into the artistic path she might have pursued if fate had been kinder. Each track reflected her personal struggles and aspirations, revealing a more mature and daring musical style, a direction she never had the chance to fully explore. Richard acknowledged that Karen never had the opportunity to show her true self. She wanted to break free from her established image and explore new musical dimensions, but she was held back. If her solo album had been released while she was alive, perhaps everything would have been different. Karen Carpenter's story ends with an unhealed tragedy, but the legacy she left behind lives on in every note and melody that has touched millions of hearts. From tender love songs to hauntingly sorrowful ballads, her voice remains an irreplaceable icon in the world of music. What do you think about Karen Carpenter's tumultuous journey? Do Richard's revelations change the way you view her? Share your thoughts below and do not forget to follow us for more untold stories on our channel.